Of the High Commissioner for Human Rights has expressed concern over human rights development in Senegal in recent weeks, where at least 16 people were killed, 250 injured, and more than 500 arrested during 3 days of protest. Now, our international correspondent Binti Jallo has more of that in this report.
At least 15 people have been killed in clashes between demonstrators and security forces. The rioters attacked supermarkets, banks, and public buildings. The riots are the latest evidence of growing tensions ahead of February 2024 presidential election. Opposition leader Ousmane Sonko is believed to be the closest challenger to incumbent Macky Sall should he run again for presidency. But against the 48-year-old opposition leader, one court case follows the next. While expressing concern on the situation, Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights said the use of firearms by security forces during protests set a negative precedent for Senegal, stressing that authorities have launched investigations and they have called on them to ensure that the investigations into the use of force are prompt, independent, and thorough, and to bring anyone found to be responsible for unnecessary or disproportionate force to account regardless of their status and political affiliation, and offer their office assistance in this respect. In order to restrict the demonstrators from communication, the government temporarily blocked the internet and the social media networks, mainly WhatsApp and messaging platforms. Spokesperson for Ohchr, Sef Mangago, while expressing concern, stressed that current investigations launch should be very transparent.
The use of firearms by security forces during protests sets a negative precedent for Senegal. We note that the authorities have launched investigations and call on them to ensure that the investigations into this use of force are prompt, independent, and thorough, and to bring anyone found to be responsible for unnecessary and disproportionate force to account, regardless of their status and political affiliation. We offer our offices assistance in this respect.
During the class, the government deployed the army to prevent further clashes. In a press conference, it was reported that the National Police had arrested at least 500 protesters. The suspension of Wellingara TV was raised as a concern by the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights.
We are also concerned about continuing restrictions on freedom of expression and peaceful assembly in the wake of the protests. Wellingara TV, a private station which was covering the protests live, was suspended on 1 June without clear legal justification and remains off air to date. A government statement said the suspension would last for 30 days. The government has also ordered the suspension of a crowdfunding campaign for the station aimed to sustain it during this time when it is unable to operate. The authorities have, since the 3 July protests, denied permission for at least 2 other protests, including those planned for this past Friday and Saturday.
Spokesperson Mangago added that the restriction of mobile internet services must be grounded in unambiguous.
Access to mobile internet services was also restricted between the 1st and the 6th of June, ostensibly to stop the dissemination of hateful and subversive messages. Internet restrictions must be grounded in unambiguous, publicly available law, must be necessary to achieve a legitimate aim as defined in human rights law, proportional to that legitimate aim, and non-discriminatory.
The Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights further stated that it is the primary responsibility of the Senegalese authority to preserve the country's long-held respect for democracy, tradition, and the rule of law by guaranteeing the rights and the freedom of peaceful assembly and expression. as well as the right to information by ensuring that journalists can exercise their profession freely and safely, particularly in the run-up to the 2024 presidential election. Clashes erupted in Senegal after opposition figure Ousmane Sonko was sentenced to 2 years in prison on June 1st. He was accused of raping a woman who worked in a massage parlor. The court cleared Sonko of rape but found him guilty of a separate offense, immoral behavior towards individuals younger than 21. Sonko's supporters have reacted with violent protests in the streets in which at least 15 people have died. Sonko came third in Senegal's 2019 presidential election and is popular among the country's youth. His supporters maintained that his legal troubles are part of a government effort to derail his candidacy in 2024 presidential election. Reporting for Eyeafrica TV News, Binti Jallo.